Hello. Have you ever wondered how it could be possible that two people experience the same event and come out with two different stories of it? Maybe this has happened among your friends. You go out to a party or you go to watch a sporting event or something, and something takes place. And later when you're telling this story back to maybe your other friends or your family members, you tell it in a particular way. And maybe you have a friend who was also there with you and is like, wait a minute, that's not how I remember it. And they tell the story a different way. In fact, it is 100% possible and probably happens to us more than we care to admit and more than we are willing to acknowledge, that an event will happen or something will take place and we remember it one way, and our family member, our friend or coworker, someone else who was with us, remembers that event in a completely different way. This recently happened to myself when I was back home visiting my family. My sister and I, we were riding around in the car, and for some background, my sister and I are 2 years apart. She's 2 years younger than me, and for our entire lives, we have never gotten along. So this week that I was back home visiting, it happened to be for her wedding. I was shocked that we spent a whole week together without fighting. It was probably the first time this has happened in our entire lives, and we're in our 30s. Well, one morning, it was the morning of my sister's wedding. In fact, we were riding around in her car. We had a couple errands to do, and she was telling me different stories about things that happened in our childhood. She was explaining to me like, oh gosh, I wish we would have got to participate more in sporting events, but mom and dad, they pulled us out of everything because they didn't have time to drive us to these events anymore. They just didn't want to deal with us. And I was thinking, wait a minute. I remember this in a completely different way. I remember it as, we did a lot of different sports. We never really stuck with anything for more than about 2 years, but my point of view is that we just got bored and we wanted to do something else, not that our parents decided that we had to quit those events. And so I just kind of got to be thinking, right? Maybe this is some of the problem that I've had with my sister, is that I went through our childhood experiencing things in one way, and she went through our childhood experiencing things in another way. Now, also some background information. We grew up in Northwest Ohio. Our parents were together our entire lives. They're still together. We had some cousins around. We had just your typical, Midwest family kind of experience. So we were really middle class. We went to the same school. We were involved in a lot of the same activities. In US schools, they have a lot of school sports and different activities for kids that are involved with the school. We were involved in 4-H. We had lots of different animals, dogs, horses, a whole bunch of stuff. So we had a variety of experiences. We got to do a lot of things. I would say, from my point of view, we had a fantastic childhood. There were problems, yes, but it was overall good. And listening to my sister's experience, or how she experienced those events, her perspective on those things really got me thinking like, wow, maybe this is the reason you as in my sister do some of the things that you do, or say the things you say, or maybe have a particular attitude about something. And so it was just a really interesting observation that people really experience things differently. And I had it once explained to me through a program I took many years ago called the Break Method program, that kind of helps people, break out of their emotional addiction patterns. And it says that it doesn't matter, back up. What happens to us is less important than how we perceive what happens to us. So we're only patterned with what we perceive happens to us, not the objective reality of what has happened. So I've been patterned to perceive things in a certain way based on my experiences, and the perception of those experiences, while my sister has been patterned based on her perception of those same experiences. So it's like you can imagine that we are going through the world with different colored glasses on. And when if you've had glasses or contacts, you know that when you go to the eye doctor, they're kind of like flicking those things in and out. Option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. And each time we have an experience, it kind of flicks in a new layer of lens. So I might be going through the world now with blue lenses after all my perceptions have been flicked in, and my sister might be going through the world with pink lenses after all her experiences and perceptions have been flicked into her glasses. And so what we need to learn how to do, and the break program really helps with this. This is not sponsored, this is just a genuine thing. The break program helps you to become aware of your prescription and then be able to take off those glasses and see that, yes, I might be perceiving something in a certain way, but maybe someone else is perceiving it differently. It doesn't mean that my experience is wrong or invalid. It just means that I've perceived it in this way. And my sister has perceived it in another way. It doesn't mean that her experience is wrong or invalid either. But I think a lot of the problems that we have with many people in our lives, in my case with my sister, are that we've experienced things from different points of view. And without good communication, it's really tough to be able to kind of reconcile those differences. Another example of this was a few months ago. There were 2 presidents and a vice president having a conversation. And it didn't go so well. I think objectively we could say it didn't go so well. But from a subjective point of view, you could have perceived those events in one way, or you could have perceived those events in another way, possibly a third, fourth, or fifth way. And I was having a conversation with my mom in February when this event had taken place, and in fact, that's exactly what happened. I had perceived the event to have gone in one direction, and she had perceived the event to have gone in another direction. Now, my mom and I are both kind of aware of this, different perspectives and things like that, and so we were able to kind of talk through that and come to some sort of agreement, or even a third option that could have possibly existed during this conversation. And okay, it didn't really impact us, so we let it go. And I really think that it's important for us to kind of become more aware of how our experiences and our perceptions cause us to view certain events in a certain way. I think we're going to have a lot more events coming up in the global atmosphere in the future that are going to cause us to have to look at things in a different way. And I think it's really important that we remember that just because we're perceiving something from one point of view, from our point of view, doesn't make that objective truth. And also, if other people have perceived something in a different way, it doesn't mean that they are lying. It doesn't mean that they're wrong, and it doesn't make our perception and experience of those events invalid either. Just that we have to be aware that we're only patterned with what we perceive happens to us. And in order to be able to reconcile those differences, we have to learn how to take off those glasses and learn how to see things from another point of view. So I can leave a link to Break Method in the box below. Again, completely unsponsored. It's just something that I really think works, and I really think is important for helping us as humans learn how to regulate our emotions. Thank you everyone for watching. If you've made it this far, special shout out to still at this moment my 3 subscribers. I'm so thankful you're here. So thankful you're here. So grateful for you. This has been today's Still Small Words of the Week. Take time during your week for your own experience with the still small voice and these little moments of revelation. I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world, and until next time, bye.